Hello, everybody, and welcome back. More good questions for everybody today. Make sure this is being recorded. It is. Awesome. So this is like live Q&A number 4, I think. So number 4th time we're doing this. We have a number of questions. Again, we may not get to them all. We're going to try in the next 30 minutes. If we don't, make sure to resubmit them for next month. And sorry, we keep having to push this back, but things have gotten quite crazy. And so we're trying to fit this in where we can. So for everybody that's been waiting an extra week, we're about to start this. So let's start with the first one. The first question is from Grace. Is it worth it to get a cloud system with all the bells and whistles, or should I just keep it simple? Ooh, that's a good, I don't know. That's a tough one. My thought is get a cloud system that has as many features as you're currently using and makes your life better. But all the bells and whistles, I don't know, I guess it depends. Like, are you going to add like a reminder service? Do you want an app? Do you want all that stuff? And can they support it? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think when going into a cloud management system move, know from the beginning that your workflows are going to change. There's not going to be a cloud system that matches your system perfectly, where you can keep everything you're currently doing exactly the same way that you are currently doing. So keep in mind that there are going to be changes, but then also evaluate how much change you and your team are willing to go through. And if you think there's a bunch of bells and whistles that you'll never use, then maybe that's not the one for you. But at the end of the day, you have to pick the one that you feel like your team can adapt to the most, with keeping in mind that they are going to have to adapt.
Yeah, I agree. John says, and we don't have the wheel this week. I don't know what I did with my wheel, and I thought I had a bookmark, so I lost it. So there's no prize this week. I'm sorry. So sorry for you who think you're going to win an iPad this week. You're not, because I don't have the freaking wheel. I don't know where it went. It's out there on the internet somewhere. I just thought I had it saved, and I didn't. John says, we went through a complete system shutdown last week. No internet as well. And now it seems that Avimark is running really slow. Any help? I don't know. Because Avimark should run without the internet. Like, you should be able to use Avimark even without the internet, because it's just that shortcut to an executable that's on the server. So technically speaking, you should, like, unless something happened with,
unless your server is your DHCP server and that's what went down. So many of these questions require a lot of background information, but
yeah, exactly.
Complete system shutdown. So typically there is a device when there's a complete system shutdown that failed, whether that's your firewall, your server, a switch, whatever it may be. And if it was an emergency shutdown and emergency band-aids were put into place, that might be where your slowdown is coming from.
Yeah.
But the only thing I can think that would cause an Avimark shutdown and a potential internet shutdown would be if your managing network device is the device that went down, and that also happens to be your Avimark server.
Yeah. So if the server is doing DHCP and DNS, maybe it's a DNS problem. Like, a lot of stuff generally starts with DNS too. So if it can't, it's having a hard time talking to computers, and you gotta have to have that Avimark share. I don't know.
Either that, or
why would it run slow though?
Yeah, it could have been if a switch went down and that took everything down, and they replaced it with a temporary switch that's not a gigabit switch, and you had a gigabit switch before.
Yeah.
That could cause some internal network slowness. You're just not going to see as quite as speeds. But if it was your server that went down and a quick fix was put in to get it back up, maybe the server's just not running at the speeds it should be.
And not to throw John under the bus here, but a lot of times we will also hear like Avimark's running slow on every computer, and then we start digging into it and it's like 1 or 2 computers. And so it's not every computer, it's just 2 important computers. And so it makes us feel like it's every computer. So that would also be the question, like, is it every device, or is it like a couple of key, like TechStation 1, which is like a primary machine that everybody's using as they're cycling through exam rooms. That machine is running slow, and so it feels like everything is running slow elsewhere. That would also be important to know, because then it would tell you, okay, it's isolated to 1 or 2 computers and not the entire network. So then there's some other problem there. So I don't know if we're going to really be able to answer this one.
Yeah, and maybe we should also, I don't know that we've talked about this. is if anyone would like to have a longer conversation about their problems, Clint and I are always happy to talk.
Yes.
So you can email support@luca.vet or clint@luca.vet.
Yes.
We'll send over our meeting link and we can do a deep dive if you would want to.
Yes. Always happy to help. Okay, so fake spin of the wheel. We'll move on here. Emma says, "We are in an older building with this is this is the one we were talking about earlier. We are in an older building with cabling that seems to be a bit of a nightmare. We have cables everywhere. We looked at getting everything rewired, but it was really expensive. Any advice?"
Unfortunately, it is expensive. So then this is why we tell our clinics who are actually building new facilities, if you think that there is ever a spot that you may want to put a phone, a printer, a label printer, a computer, lab equipment, Cubex, anything like that, add the port now because it's very expensive to go back, especially in older buildings where it's not designed, where you may have old insulation in the attic that they're having to work through. Unfortunately, it's just an expensive process, and you ultimately have to make the decision, is that the investment? You know, we recommend it. You'll typically see better speeds because you're getting those, we call them home run cables, where they're going directly from the computer back to the switch. You'll see a lot of improvements, but it is a pricey investment for sure.
Yeah, and then too, like if you're going to spend the money too, like you might as well like make it a little bit more expensive and run extra lines, like I think you mentioned, because then it's just like then you're not dealing with this problem later, like trying to run extra cables, and then hopefully you can get rid of all those little like switches, because that seems to be a common thing is all the little patch
Yeah.
switches everywhere. Yeah, so
And definitely get multiple quotes.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
look at quotes and make sure you're really sitting down and understanding those quotes, because what you may be looking at is, you know, the price is expensive, but also with the number of ports you want, you might be needing, you know, 4 switches for those, and switches themselves can be expensive. So when you're looking at the quotes, you're looking at the labor, the actual equipment, and like the networking equipment and everything else that goes into that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and then also sometimes you could, in the quoting process, we have also found too that sometimes like you don't have to get all the hardware that goes with it. Like you can just run the cables like with a camera system or whatever. Like if you're wanting to read, you're also like, well, we're gonna wire and we want to do a camera system. A lot of times they can run the cables for those things. So you just pay the wiring and then you can add the cameras later when you have more cash flow. So sometimes there's some ways to save money. So I don't know if that's a part of it, but sometimes there are ways that you can like at least just get the cabling ran, and then like some of the additional hardware stuff you need, you can kind of put on hold. So also a way to kind of reduce costs. All right. Thank you, Emma. Let's go on to Lucas. We are on Cornerstone currently, and we seem to like it, but it seems that every week we get a sales call from another cloud system. Are we running into any issues not moving to the cloud? The short answer is no. Actually, honestly, we're working with a lot of hospitals right now that are on Cornerstone and have just like purchased new servers or are needing a new server, but they want to stay on it. And that's generally our first question too. Like if you have an older server, it's like, well, do you like it? Because if you like it, then let's generally speaking, it's going to be cheaper. If you kind of spread the cost of that server out over 7 years as your monthly fee, as opposed to like what you're paying on a monthly basis for your cloud service provider, a lot of times it's going to be potentially cheaper. I think if you look at the support, because what is the support cost? Is that like 1,000 or 1,200 bucks a year, like with IDEX?
I think that is so very dependent based on what deals people broker with
That's true.
IDEX.
Yeah. So it kind of varies. So it may be a wash, I guess, if we also include the IDEX contract. But sometimes though, like I think that's a great point. When you're looking at replacing other equipment, a lot of times IDEX or whoever, they're willing to like wheel and deal if you're gonna, especially if you're going through like new lab contracts and that sort of stuff, they're willing to wheel and deal with whatever services they have to try to get you into those contracts. And so as you can sit, sometimes it might even be cheaper. And technically with the server one, you have more control over who has access to the data. You can protect it. You can back it up. You can completely control the data that's in that. So technically it's a little bit safer. As far as like being able to absolutely control it yourself and knowing what your protections are in place versus relying on a service provider. But honestly, I know all my friends who own cloud companies are going to hate me for saying this, but no, I don't think so. Actually, on a side note, I gave a speech last January in Saskatoon, Canada, to a bunch of large animal. It was like a lot of them deal in like herds of cattle and stuff because there's a lot of cattle ranching up there. And actually, two doctors came up to me and they're like, like we are listening to you, and we're like, we don't really have to deal with any of this cyber stuff because everything we do is on paper. So listening to you, I think I should just keep doing paper. And my question was like, do you feel like you have any inefficiencies in the paper? And do you feel like you can access your data and you can efficiently serve your customers and your herds by using paper? They're like, yes. Then I said, absolutely, stay on the paper. Just because we're in technology, I'm not going to tell you to buy more technology stuff if it doesn't improve your life and make your life better. And I think that should always be the stance of Luca is like, we're not just going to sell you stuff just for the sake of selling it. Like, it should make your life better. I don't know anything to add.
No, I think that's do what works best for your clinic at the end of the day and your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lucas. All right, let's move on to number 5. Mia, we have a local IT company, but the problem seems that no one understands our needs. Every time we call, I feel we have to re-explain everything, but we're stuck in a contract. Is there anything we can do on our side to make it better?
So one of Luca's big values is that we want our clients to understand the technology that they use. And I think that that's one thing that can help when you're stuck in a contract with an IT provider who maybe isn't serving you as well as they should, is sit down with them and make sure you have an understanding of the technology in your clinic, what it's doing, what you're paying for, and get those questions answered. Because then there may be issues that you're reaching out to support, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't reach out to support. They should be offering you support. But if the support is slow or delayed, sometimes having that full understanding of how technology works within your clinic can mean you can solve some of the issues. Whether it be like if there's a continuing issue, maybe they can show you how they resolve it each time. We have one clinic who has a printer that needs to be replaced, but they do not want to replace it. And so there's a quick little job that needs to be done to make the printer boot itself back up every now and then. So we'll talk our clinics through how to do that, so that they can do it themselves and you're not waiting on us, or you're not waiting on a tech who maybe hasn't worked on it and doesn't know that you need to restart the printer spooler service every now and then. And so learning those things and learning the technology in your clinic can definitely help ease some strain there sometimes. But also, as you get closer to the end of the contract, if they're not meeting your needs, a lot of IT providers try to make a huge deal of the hassle it is of switching.
It's not. It's easy.
It's not. There's definitely a migration of data and understanding and knowledge that has to happen. I'm not going to say it's going to happen overnight like a light switch, but it is not the multi-month process that is sometimes presented.
Yeah. They're like, oh, we have to set up this like leaving project and do all these tasks. Generally, it's like push a button. Like if any of our customers, we have no contracts. Not that this is like meant to be a sales pitch for us, but like we have no contracts. And I will tell you in the sales process, if you're not happy, if you feel like you're not getting what you're paying for, you let me know when you want out. We'll click the button. We'll remove everything. We hand you everything we have documented on it. It's done. We could probably have it done in a couple hours. So it's generally not that hard. Knock on wood, we haven't had to do that, so that's good. Not thanks to me, thanks to Logan and the rest of the team, because they're the ones that do all the hard work. But yeah, and then I don't know, is there anything else you could do better? I think you're right. But then but this is what frustrates me, because it's like here you are, you're paying them, you're in a contract, and it's like they don't understand us. We're not getting the help we need. But then what can we do to make it better? You shouldn't have to. Like you're paying them to give you a certain level of service. Like you shouldn't have to do anything. Although I will say there have been a couple of hospitals we've worked with where where we have said as a team as a whole, like if they ever came to us that we worked with in the past and they found out about Luca now and they wanted to come work with us, we'd be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
We will help you find another IT provider. Thank you for thinking about us, but we will not take you on. So hopefully you're not one of them. But
and one thing there is like the more you know about your technology, the more you can make informed decision, the easier it is to deal with those issues, the easier it is to find a new IT provider when you need to.
Yes.
So
I don't know. I also feel like the fact that you're asking, is there anything you can do to make it better, tells me you're probably not one of those hospitals that like we just don't want to deal with. I don't know. You shouldn't have to. That's the short of it, I feel like. Yeah. Sorry, we didn't have a better answer there. Noah says, this one's for you, Logan. Are there any reliable and budget-friendly printers out there?
So we've talked about this a lot. Luca's preferred
every month
yeah.
we get this question.
Luca's preferred standard printer brand is Brother. We found that the easiest to set up. We found that in cases like their warranties are typically pretty good. We've had, parts be replaced. The speed is nice. You're not dealing with the HP Smart software and all of that. That is our preferred brand. The HPs, they're fine. Just know that sometimes their software is weird and that they are typically 2 to 3 year printers. They are going to die at 2 to 3 years. HP is in the ink business. They sell printers, but they are in the ink business. The newer printer you buy, the newer ink they can sell you. So keep that in mind. And then when it comes to
I think when I first got into IT, like HP were pretty good. Like they were pretty robust, like they always worked, but it just seems like, I don't know, for the last like 5 to 7 years, it's just gotten worse.
Yeah, since they really started pushing their ink subscription. And so I think their printers are actually designed to fail with around the same time that they want to push whatever new ink that they have designed. Kind of seems the underlying thing there. But and make sure you're buying business class printers no matter what brand you buy. Even if it's from Best Buy. Best Buy sells home class and business class printers. Buy the business class one. They're meant to print more. If you're looking at label printers, Zebra printers, there will be some practice management systems that say they may not work. We have yet to find a practice management system that cannot work with Zebra printers. Might be settings that you have to change, but we've had the most success with those.
Oh, and I also should say, like on that business class printer note, I think we had a hospital the other day that we met with, and they're like, yeah, you guys recommended this printer, but we're getting a new one. And then I think we're like, well, you bought, like, it's just not working, it's jamming up. But then we realized like they bought a refurbished one off of Amazon. So a lot of times there's no warranty or anything. So it's like, okay, cool, we have a bad one, but now we can't go to the manufacturer and be like, hey, give us a new one because this one's bad. And so you have no additional costs. So sometimes it feels like you may feel like you're spending more upfront, like you higher capital expenditure. But if say you're paying 250 instead of 200, you're not paying us, an hour or 2 hours to work on the thing every month. So like technically your labor cost for us to manage and support it, or whoever your IT provider, should be lower. It should function better. So you have improved workflow. Like, so you're technically it's lower, but when we only look at the actual raw cost, when we're looking at it, like, oh, this is more expensive than the other ones, it's because it's going to save us money in other areas. So don't just ever think about just the actual printer itself. Like, think about the other things that go into it.
And
I
the
think
ink
we can
as
save
well.
money. Yeah, exactly. Although we did have one hospital that told us like, we do like the brothers, but the ink seems more expensive. We're like, yeah, but not by much. It was like 5 or 6% more. But again, we never have to work on them. Like they just run. So again, you're not paying us $200 a month or whatever, 2 hours a month to fix the damn thing. And we don't want to. It's like, yeah, we would love the work and we would love the labor. But at the end of the day, it's like, is that better for you? Probably not. Anyways.
And to be clear, we also don't want to work on printers.
True.
We will.
This
We
is
will
true.
happily work on them.
Yeah.
But they are my least favorite ticket.
Yes. Okay, Isabella says, how can we train our team to use a new cloud system without losing our minds?
Ooh.
Okay, so my initial thoughts on this, like having work on, like I came from software first before I got into this whole world. So on bigger projects, when we worked on big ERP systems, like $500,000 projects where it's like massive software, lots of people, it was always like have a key person in each department be a champion of success. Because if you don't get a person from each department involved, they're going to feel left out, and they're going to feel like the software is likely taking their jobs, and they're going to feel less valued, and they're going to feel less important, and then they're going to fight it the whole way, and then it's never going to go right. And you're going to initially they're just going to tell you it's because I don't like it, right? I just don't like the way the system is. I like the old process was better, and they're going to come up with other reasons. But a lot of times it's because they're afraid the software is going to take their job. That was a lot of the problems we came up against. So once we went to an area where like, okay, we got a person from every department. Like we worked at this, actually it was really cool. It was like my first experience into like massive bulk coffee operations. There's a really big coffee operation called White Coffee in New York City. And so it was like they had this massive facility, once we got in and like we had all the distribution and the warehouse guys and everybody involved, it went so much smoother. Like it really improved because everybody had say and everybody's involved. So in a vet hospital, your reception team should be involved. Your vet tech team should be involved. Your associates should be involved. You, the practice manager, like have a key person that's involved in working with their kind of sub departments, getting their feedback so that it's not extra work on everybody. One person kind of takes the lead. I think that generally make it go a lot smoother because they feel involved and they're a part of the process and they're helping everything to get better. And actually, we had one hospital that I didn't think was ever going to migrate to the cloud, and they actually did. And what I think to give them credit, one thing that they did is they had like the entire team sit in on these demos. And it was like, it was fantastic because then they all as a team kind of chose which software they thought was going to be best. And so again, there's like buy-in from the team. No, I really like this one. I really like that. Plus, not to mention they were an introvet, and it was like so awful.
It couldn't have gotten worse. So
yeah, so I think
that is a
everybody
big
tried to
plug
leave
there.
anyway, but I never thought they'd go to the cloud, but they did. So yeah, anything to add to that? I went on a tangent there.
Yeah, no, same thing. Just make sure everyone's involved because the clinics that we've seen had the hardest time switching are the clinics who just the main doctor and practice manager made the decision with no other input. And sometimes, we all get really stuck, and I think this is every industry, into what our job is, and we forget that everyone else is performing different jobs. And those team members are going to be the ones that catch the questions that maybe the doctor who really only works in this specific area of the practice management system is not going to know. He's not going to know, oh, he or she's not going to know, this calendar scheduling is going to make our receptionist jobs 10 times longer because it's way more clicks. Those things aren't going to catch. And so when you have that input from all of the other members, you also might catch things that are not going to work for your clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we are coming down. We only have 4 minutes left, so we'll see how many we can get to, maybe one or two. So again, if we didn't get to you, let's see, we just did that one, so we'll probably get there. So Ethan, Sophia, Jackson, Amelia, Mason, and Charlotte. If you want to resubmit your questions for next week, you can go to the website, luca.vet, you can resubmit that, or you can just look for the new webinar link, also register. You don't have to show up live. You can submit your questions there. That being said, Oliver says, when is the right time to ditch our old PCs? What are the signs that are past their prime? I think you should look at where does the money come in first. So like most hospitals are reception based checkout or exam room based checkout. It's kind of one of the two, maybe you're hybrid of both. So where can you not afford to not have a computer for 5 to 10 days, 5 to 14 days, let's say. Like if that computer went down, it would be a disaster. Then, generally speaking, you should probably replace that desktop or laptop every 5 years, probably. If it's a business class laptop, you could probably push it 5 years. And doesn't mean you have to just shelve it. It means that like your comfort station computer that's like 12 years old and barely works and you only use it occasionally, move it over there and like run it to death because it doesn't matter if that machine dies. But the ones where you cannot be without a computer for at least 10 to 14 days, should probably replace them every 5 years, regardless of how they're functioning. Even if they're functioning great, let's get something else in there because we just know we cannot have a failure here. Everything else, I feel like you can kind of be strategic about and figure out, let it die, right? And then replace it. As long as we can still update and maintain the security updates, that's also an important piece. So if you are running Windows 7, Windows 8, soon to be Windows 10, they're not giving any more security updates. And if you've downloaded a free ebook and the top 5 things you can do to protect your hospital, one of those things is updates. So if you can't apply the updates, it's one of the easiest and free things you can do to help protect yourself. That's my general thought.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, easy. Okay, this is probably the last one. Ava says, oh, it's another one. Printer setup woes. Any quick tips for making it less of a hassle?
Yes. Make sure it's Ethernet connected. If you can't do Ethernet, just know that Wi-Fi printing is always slower. There's no way to make that the same as Ethernet. So if you can connect to Ethernet, do it. If you have an IT person, make them set it with a static IP address.
Yes.
If you don't have a static IP, you run into the case of you adding a printer, and then the next time that printer reboots, it gets a new IP address, and now your printers can't print to it, depending on how it's set up. Pick a name, and when you add that printer to your printers list, give it the same name on every computer. When you add it, a lot of times it'll default to HP OfficeJet 2700. Right click on it, click properties, change the printer name to where the printer actually is, and keep that consistent. So many clinics have printer issues that are not actual printer issues. It's that they got rid of a printer 5 years ago, never removed it from their devices. Someone goes to print to an outdated printer, doesn't print, and then we have printer issues. So quick things you can do, keep it nice, simple, and clean.
And actually, I'm going to, on that list note, it's also a great shameless self-promotion. So for a lot of these questions that you guys have, let me share my screen here. Let me know. Can you see my screen, Logan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for a lot of these things, like the printing thing, we have a lot of free resources. So things you can get for free from us that we have put together from you. So if you go to ebooks, we have a full library of them. So protecting your practice, this is the one I talked about, the 5 things you can do to help boost up your cybersecurity. Most of the things are free. You can do over the weekend there. One of them is printing problems. I actually worked with the team and we created this infographic that you can download for free that will show you like all the things to how to hopefully make your printing better and less, require you to lean on your IT person list. And these things are all free, so go there, download them, use them. Worked really hard to make sure they're pretty too, so please use them, download them, and that is the short of it. Well, we are 40 seconds over. Thank you everybody for submitting your questions. All the people I mentioned, please get your questions in earlier. The sooner you get them in, the more likely we are able to answer them. And I think that's it. Anything else you want to add?
That's it. Everyone have a good week and a happy Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.